So hi everyone, I'm Dominic Floreno.
And I'm Donovan Menard. And thank you all for being here. Though I'm not sure you have a choice, I think it's like mandatory, but thank you anyway.
Donovan and I are about to dive headfirst into our absolute ramblings about the last 13 years of school, which if you didn't know is around 2,000 school days. So a lot of time and a lot of random, really weird or interesting things to talk about. While most of us often want to leave the past far, far, far behind us as we move up in life, we're going to take a short moment to look back and see how far we've come.
Yes. Before we begin, I do just want to give a shout out to Amir because he let me have some of his Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee because I didn't bring water and I was kind of thirsty, so thanks. Now we're going to start out talking about Wildwood. Yeah, so Wildwood was a simpler time. The birds were green and the grass was chirping and we're all very small children. Some of us are still very small, but back in the days of Wildwood, we were primitive creatures. We were uncivilized. And we did what we had to do to survive. We just spend our recesses toiling away in the wilderness, smashing rocks together. It sounds like I'm exaggerating, but a significant portion of us actually did that. I mean, we had access to the whole playground. It had, slides, monkey bars. It had swings. It had that circle of black steppy thingies. I don't know what that was for, but we really used to. Most of us were just allured. That's not a verb. We were drawn by the allure of the wild, and we went into that lush, untamed wilderness between Wilkins Field and the playground, and we just smashed rocks together, trying to get them to break apart. I still have no idea why, but I enjoyed it. We took care of a lot of animals at Wildwood. We saw frogs, chicks, and caterpillars mature into beautiful monarch butterflies. All of them. Even the frogs. They all came out of their cocoon as beautiful butterflies. I wonder where they are. I have a lot of sort of just fragmented minor memories that might cause you to recall some aspects of our Wildwood experience. In computer class, we had to use KidPix, which was this little, it's like a little image graphic design editing application. And, if you remember, most of us now just press Command Z to, undo something that you did on a computer. But the undo button on this little program, it was the face of a bald man with the beady eyes. He was called the undo man or something. And when you would click on him, you'd be like, oops, didn't want to do that. He would say, undo, undo. It was terrifying. I don't know if you guys remember, but I'm still so scared. Sometimes I just wake up in a cold sweat thinking about him. Other times, I wake up in a warm sweat thinking about him. It depends on a few little minor things. We had brain pop. You remember brain pop? We had silly bands. The school store. Remember that? They hyped their school store up so much. We were all so excited. We know weeks in advance. And then it would end up just being a cart with different colored pencils and animal-shaped erasers and some notebooks. But somehow we were still so excited about it. And that's what amazes me, is that it's just how we were so fascinated and impressed by tiny things like worms. We'd be crazy about worms, just looking at worms and stuff. I don't know, I still think worms are cool. But why we had some really fantastic teachers like Mrs. Martin, Mr. Johnson, and that's also Wildwood's when we started playing sports. They started us off really young. And we started with the guitar program, band program, chorus program, and we'd have these little assemblies each year where we'd sing about, bees, or farming, or both, I think. We wished farewell to Principal Reed with like a parody of Don McLean's American Pie. Right? What I also remember is that a strangely large portion of us seemed to think he was retiring so he could fight tigers, like wrestle tigers. But yeah, in gym, we mostly just threw balls at pins, and it was a lot of fun. It was an outlet for our rage. And we started creating our own works of art. Art was great. We'd make these like mangled witch corpses for Halloween. They're like crashed into the wall. But I had a hard time working on mine because there were these paper mache humans like just up on these high shelves. And like I was trying to work on my project and paper mache Albert Einstein was just staring down at me condescendingly, judgmentally. Anyway, Wildwood, it was quite the experience. And we all formed friendships there that would last until around 7th grade. And, why don't you tell us a little bit about early years? Yes.
What do you see? In a parallel world, on the outskirts of civilization, sits Boone Township, aka the South Dakota of New Jersey, the Wild West of Morris County. And if you think that sounds like a bit of an exaggeration, then you're probably forgetting the one time an actual live bear almost nearly walked into the school. Being in the same building for years and years and years probably had some adverse effect on my health. I'm sure it's had a psychological impact on who I am, but that doesn't matter. What does matter is what we did there. Picture recess. A time of wonder and fun. For years we played Foursquare, Zombie Tag, Watermelon, Wall Ball, and random games like Kick and Catch. I still don't really understand that one. I guess it's in the name. We also went through phases of just throwing pointy sticks at each other and climbing that elusive green hill that we were just absolutely not allowed to go on, which made it even more, which makes you want to go on even more. But in the school is where the real fun was. In 3rd grade, I was blessed to have Mr. Filacetta as my teacher, a straight out of college former minor league football coach. I Googled him, and that's what he was before he came. I honestly answered so many things. But he actually, instead of teaching, he left me with a lot of questions, really. Like, why did we spend weeks researching and watching American Idol contestants? And why did we play so much silent ball and watch hours and hours of Michael Jackson's Thriller over and over again? Or where did he get his teaching license from? I couldn't find or Google. Anywho, the things we did learn how to do well in 3rd grade were those times table sheets. I became the Usain Bolt of basic multiplication, and spent those competitions like my entire existence was predicated upon my ability to know that 4 times 3 is 12. That's all I know. So, around the times also when we started to play things like the recorder and started to take art classes. The recorder is a beautiful thing. Not only is it a perfect excuse to make unending noise and to be as annoying as possible, it was also a tool of uncontrollable chaos. I can still remember the teachers' pained faces as we played shrill notes in the hallways, and don't even get me started on Mrs. Lanigan. I'm pretty sure there's a reason she retired as soon as we left RPS. And I guess now is also a time to mention someone who I think we can all collectively agree was one of our favorite teachers in all of our time at high school, and that would be the art teacher, Mrs. McGinnis, who became Mrs. Troncalli. Mrs. McGinnis was our artistic savant, our modern-day Van Gogh, a 2010 version of Da Vinci. She let us run wild with paintbrushes and let us turn our wildest dreams into poorly made clay sculptures. She also seemed to be the only teacher that didn't get mad that our grade at RBS never listened to any directions nor even tried to follow any rules, ever. Now apparently she's a yoga teacher down in Florida and she's co-writing a book, The Magic of LinkedIn. In 4th grade, we started to switch classes for things like science and health. Remember Miss Ball? And at that time, that seemed so amazing and fun, but now it seems completely trivial. But one of the highlights of that year was definitely the Wax Museum. I was William Clark of Lewis and Clark fame, with Christian. He was the other one. And I remember standing like soldiers at barracks as my drill sergeant, aka Mrs. Link, came by and quizzed us on our characters and made us recite our lines. Truly a nerve-wracking time. Unlike a certain middle school that will not be named, gym class at RVS was amazing and fun. We played capture the flag, soccer battle ball, guard the pin, battleship, and whatever other games Mr. Ellard would learn about at his weird gym teacher conventions. And when he wasn't learning new, obscure gym games, he was being a recess and lunch monitor. I'm sure we all have our own unique experiences with that. And now we'll go back to you, Donovan.
Dominic. Yeah, so that's our little elementary school portion, because of course all good things come to an end. The day did come when we graduated from Wildwood Elementary School and went out into the real world to get jobs, make money, get married, and start a family. But we all soon realized that we didn't have enough educational experience to secure a decent paying job. So we all went back to Briarcliff Middle School for some additional education. Briarcliff Middle School. On the outside, it looked a lot like an asylum. On the inside, it was a lot like an asylum. And pretty fitting, because in middle school we were all very strange creatures. I think we're all a little embarrassed, very embarrassed about our middle school selves. I'd like to apologize for my middle school. But a lot of the teachers at Briarcliff were very memorable, very intriguing. There was Mr. Mattoon, that gentle giant, what a fella. You guys remember Mr. Posner? Man, sometimes I think about him and I wonder if he was really a teacher there or if that was just a dream. I don't even know what to say about him right now, because I feel like I can't really describe him with words. But what I do know is that during one of the classes he taught, or something he was overseeing, I made a presentation about Turkey, the country. And that's how I learned that Istanbul was Constantinople. Now it's Istanbul, not Constantinople. Why they changed it, I can't say. People just liked it better that way. Another teacher that I think about a lot these days is Mr. Panisi. Big lumberjack-looking fella, flawless beard. He often just taught us complete lies about history. And he wouldn't tell us that they were lies either, so people believed it. And he gave us a history final, which it seemed like it was 50% of the questions were about Chuck Norris. I found it kind of funny, but a lot of my fellow classmates were crying, so I don't know if that was a good idea. But every year he'd take his 8th grade class out fencing in the spring, right outside the school. When we were in 8th grade, we didn't get to do any fencing. And, I'm still sad I'm disappointed we never got to do that, so, Mr. Panisi, if you are out there somewhere, if by the tiniest chance you're listening to this speech from far, far away, I just want to let you know that you still owe the class of 2019 a fencing session. Please contact Donovan R. Menard at gmail.com to arrange this before I consider taking legal action. Recess was a lot different at Briarcliff. We had no playground. We just had a large empty field next to a baseball diamond, a couple picnic tables, and 2 basketball hoops. But we still did a lot on that field. Nothing was out of the ordinary out there during recess. Cops and robbers, tag, stick battles, blackmailing, bribery, gang violence, trench warfare, carpet bombing, cultural appropriation, large-scale violations of the Geneva Convention, totalitarian dictatorships, kickball. It was all just nothing of that was unusual for a recess for a Briarcliff student. Jim, I'm not going to say much about Jim. I just think, even envisioning that white and navy blue uniform brings back some rather intense memories. We're going to skip over that. And that period came in 7th grade when about 20% of the students in our class moved to Switzerland to achieve or something. A lot of us had to say goodbye to some good friends, like Alec Weicker. He actually moved to Indiana, not Switzerland, but I'm assuming that's kind of the same thing. I miss Alec, I'm still sad that I missed his bar mitzvah because I was traveling when that happened. But you know, it was all right, because in middle school there are plenty of bar mitzvahs to go around. Although, there was one bar mitzvah that I wasn't invited to. It caused me to sob my eyes out for several evenings. I didn't actually cry, that's funny, yeah. Not a huge thing. I lost my spot. That's on the page. Well, middle school ended for us in the spring of 2015, and that was a time of innocence, happiness, and hope. Temporary hope. And now back to you, Dominic.
Middle school at RVS was definitely an interesting time, to say the least. Funnily enough, my memories from middle school are more fragmented than elementary school, so I'll just go through a bunch of particular highlights. The Spanish mock quinceañera was basically a middle school precursor to the prom. We danced, although awkwardly, ate nachos, and read all about Frida Kahlo for some reason. Mrs. Freeman struggled so much to get us to follow even the most basic directions, so I'm pretty sure she was relieved that we all correctly memorized how to do Spanish square dancing. That was cool. But more importantly in that year was Mr. Fordyce. Mr. Fordyce had an experiment once where he just shocked us with an electric generator and then cackled about how funny it was to see us flinch. He loved that so much he did it every day, and we all fell for it over and over again. Come here, just, I'll show you something. Oh, no. He doesn't work there anymore. At the time, we were all confused as to why he retired, but the more I think about it, I'm pretty sure it might have been a good thing. Although he did give the best lectures on space, and one time he got his talking fish that was above the door. I don't know, it's a very obscure thing to mention, but he got his talking fish to sing every time there was an announcement, and that was cool. I miss him. In middle school, we also went through that weird time when everyone had a nickname that was basically the first part of their name and then bag at the end. Thank God that didn't stick, and we said 6 years later. Very happy about that. In 7th grade, Vice Principal Mrs. Dr. Landis came to RVS. I'm just happy that everyone loved her and that her presence wasn't even remotely controversial and that we all got along so well and that she loved us all so much. Brings tears to my eyes. Also, side note real quick, has anyone actually been inside RVS like recently? Because I was there a few months ago for my little sister's last music recital. And not only can I touch both sides of the hallway if I stretch my arms out, which is a weird sensation, but it's also like way smaller in general than I remember. The hallway that begins at the 3rd grade and then goes all the way down to like 7th grade Monaco, it felt like miles before, but it's really like 7 steps. And it's just like a weird thing to experience as well. Side note, what on earth was our cafeteria? Why didn't we have an actual place to eat lunch? For those who don't know, the cafeteria at RVS is basically a makeshift salad bar combined with these like sketchy tables that came down from the walls. And the funny thing was, I just assumed this was normal for like 6 years until I came to Mountain Lakes one time for the high school and they have a cafeteria. And I was like, wow, this is so nice. And also, if I'm talking about RVS middle school, I can't forget to talk about the upper grade teachers. We had the absolute power squad of Turner, Monaco, Coca, O'Connor, Dean, and Mr. Edwards. The dream team, if you will. There are so many crazy memories I have of those teachers, whether it was Mr. Coca just causing chaos for fun, our whole grade pranking Mr. Turner, Mr. Coca pranking Mr. Turner, creating mold and science classes, performing overly complicated handshakes with Mr. Monaco, or just listening to Mrs. Dean rave about how much she was in love with Randy Pausch. Those teachers were always doing something memorable that I just love to think about.
Well, now it's time to talk a little bit about high school. Now, unfortunately, I actually have 0 memories of high school. I only remember like what happened in the past week and what happened before high school. But I do know that, you know, we're a pretty successful class. And In terms of our music programs, we've had several students get into area and regional choirs, bands, and orchestras. And we got our new choir teacher, Mr. Valleys, who brought the handbell choir to our school. And he brought some of our chamber choir students to Carnegie Hall. So, I mean, that's a pretty big deal. Our theater program brought back a whole bunch of awards and gave our beloved Mr. Bernikas a tearful but very celebratory farewell for his last year as band director here.
And it would be a disservice if I didn't mention our boys and girls in blue, aka the sports teams. Our sports team sure did throw some balls and score some points.
Now, I'm not sure if you've heard because the lacrosse team has been very honest. But I think we won something lacrosse related. I think.
You gotta be careful not to set off their primal chanting. I won't mention football, that's all.
And there was other sports, and they also played sports. And nice job. We've done pretty darn well academically. We worked hard, and we sat through a whole lot of standardized tests, which was harder in high school because in middle school and elementary school they give you fun little assemblies, people doing backflips to entertain you. At the end of the day, they give you Italian ice and stuff, extended recess. But now when we take standardized tests, we just take more classes after. But we powered through it, and we did pretty well.
And as a class, we've done hundreds of hours of volunteering, completed several Eagle Scout and Gold Award projects, helped at food pantries, gathered donations, marched in rallies, and fought for what we believe in. We've all done things outside of school and have in some way or another had a positive impact on our community.
And what's great about the point we're at now is that we've been lucky enough to have this fantastic education as a foundation for our passion and purpose. And now we can take all that we've learned with us to a completely new setting. We all have the chance to have a fresh start, chance to start applying our knowledge and pursue our own goals, make differences in the world and in the lives of others. But for now, though, just look around and just take a moment to appreciate those who have been by your side throughout this journey. Especially because after tonight, none of us will see one another ever again at all, at any point in our lives, ever.
No exceptions. And while next year is a fresh start, we'll always keep in mind the important lessons that we've learned over the past 2,000 school days. Be a good person, help those in need, be a thermostat, and most importantly, be yourself. These last 13 years may have seemed like an eternity, but from what I've heard, the next 4 years absolutely fly by. So I know that I'll be taking the time to work hard, but sit back and enjoy and live in the moment.
So thank you for listening, class of 2019. You've been a fantastic audience, and I'd like to say one more thing to you. Keep it spicy.
Thank you very much, Dom and Donna.